25 to 11. Lucy White here with you until midday today. Lots to come on the programme. We're going to talk now about diabetes, because last week a report published by Diabetes UK revealed the number of people living with both type 1 and type 2 diabetes has reached an all-time high. There are more than 4 million cases and a further 2.4 million at high risk of developing type 2 diabetes. That organisation has called it a rapidly escalating diabetes crisis. So what's behind the increase, and do we actually know enough about both type 1 and type 2 diabetes? Let's speak to Alyssa Faulkner, who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2013, and Joe Beaver, who was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 2014, which she's now reversed. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Alyssa, talk us through your situation, first of all, and your diagnosis, and what led to that diagnosis.
Yes, 10 years ago I lost a good amount of weight, probably about 2 or 3 stone. I was constantly thirsty and needing the toilet and so tired all the time. And it progressed only in like 2 or 3 months, as I said, so it is pretty quick. And so I was pretty unwell, and then you get the diagnosis and you're on insulin straight away. And
how have you managed since then?
Every day is different with type 1 diabetes because you have to dose your insulin depending on what you're doing in that day. But I personally manage my diabetes with an insulin pump and something called a continuous glucose monitor, which is attached to my body 24/7. So that's how I manage it.
Okay. And Joe, you were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Tell us about your situation.
Yeah, basically, you got the date wrong. I was actually diagnosed in 2006.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I'd previously been, very heavy. I was hitting like weights of 30 stone, and when I got diagnosed, it was the same as the other caller. Feeling tired, lethargic, going to the toilet a lot, just feeling dead there, and then went to the doctors because your weight, you're pre-diabetes. So I went for all the checks at the then Victoria and did the old drinking a bottle of Lucozade in a gulp. And it eventually showed up I was pre-diabetic, but because I was so big, I didn't care. So because I was looking after myself, that developed into type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
So.
And you've reversed it?
I have reversed them. I am still, as class as remission, but I'd lost 13 stone. 2014, I'd got bariatric surgery. Got gastric band found. And you have to excuse the noise. I work at Gatwick Airport.
No, so it's fine. No worries at all.
I'm right next to the runway. So, so 2014, I got bariatric surgery. And through that, over the next few years, I'd lost 13 stone. And with that, losing the weight, it pushed my diabetes blood, HbA1c blood, into a safe level.
Yeah.
When I spoke to my GP in Glasgow at the time, she said if I had presented at the time with the blood that I have now, I wouldn't be diabetic.
Right, okay. So it's lifestyle then, and that's type 2 diabetes. Alyssa, of course.
Yeah, but basically, type 2, you're on tablets. There is cases that you may have to inject insulin. I used an injector called liraglutide, but that was also maintains your blood sugars and also helps you with the weight loss as well. So that helped an awful lot pre my gastric band.
Right.
But at the moment, my diabetes is mega under control. I am not diabetic, as they would say, but I still have to look after myself. If I suddenly go down and say not look after myself for that period of time, that diabetes could come back with a vengeance. It might even go into type 1. You'd never know.
Great. And Alyssa, obviously, a different thing dealing with type 1 diabetes.
Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease, so you can develop it at any point in your life. And actually, 50% of people who are diagnosed are over the age of 18 when they are diagnosed. So it can happen at any point. It's through no fault of the individual, and it cannot be reversed.
Okay, let's bring in now Arjun Panesar, who's the CEO of DDM Health. Hi, Arjun.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Hello there, nice to meet you too. So we're talking there to Alyssa and to Joe, who was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and now is in remission from that, he says, and Alyssa, who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes and is managing that. And we got this report last week that says both types of diabetes are reaching an all-time high. Do we know why that is?
Well, I think the foundation of this is really in the differences between the types of diabetes.
Yeah.
When it comes to type 2 diabetes, I think focus and the sort of one of the biggest proponents for that is the obesity pandemic and sort of coming out of COVID. With type 1 diabetes, because, as it was mentioned, it's an autoimmune disease.
And, sorry, we lost your line there, Arjun, again. Just so it's really in the differences and the different treatments for both in terms of strategies, I would imagine. Should we be separating them even further when it comes to policies around them and healthcare?
It would make sense. I think that a lot of people in the diabetes community have been sort of asking for that for a long time. Whether or not that happens is to be seen. But yes, you make a very good point.
Why do we think then, given the difference, we tend to know the factors, don't we, around type 2 diabetes? Why would type 1 diabetes be at an all-time high?
That's a really good question, and I think there's a lot of research that's being done to understand why. There's certainly a lot more focus on it than there was, say, for instance, sort of 5-10 years ago. And there are also a number of cases where people are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and maybe misdiagnosed. So improvement in testing and access to testing is certainly helping. But I think from at least from my understanding, that it is a bit of a question mark as to why that would be increasing, as you would expect it, as you mentioned, to be consistent.
And once again, something increasing at a time when we know, don't we, healthcare services are under such an amount of pressure. Alyssa, given that you have type 1 diabetes, and we're talking there to Arjun about how people can still get them confused and view them as the same thing. Have you had people be confused about the condition that you have and think that it's type 2 or get confused about things?
Yeah, it is sometimes frustrating because people ask, did you get type 1 because you ate too much sugar as a child? And they think maybe it's to do with the lifestyle that you have it in the first place. That's not to say that everyone with type 2 gets it because of lifestyle reasons, but it is frustrating that sometimes we're lumped in with that.
And Joe, you've done the work, as it were, and you've managed to get into a situation where you're in remission, and that was lifestyle changes. Do you think that more could be done in just hammering home the link between a certain lifestyle and type 2 diabetes, and that people can make that difference in their life?
Well, obviously, if you do have a good lifestyle, it's unlikely you develop it. You see, my lifestyle was very poor. See, I could eat, and still eat. And as I said, I got up to 30 stone, so it was through my own doing. Whereas, as the other caller said, the type 1 is, I don't know how you say, you don't develop it. She may have had it for X amount of time. It's just, came to, but
yeah.
The type 1 is sort of the more serious one. Okay, diabetes is serious for both, but mine was, as people would say, you only got diabetes because you're fat, you're obese, you ate too much. And I'd say, yes.
Yeah.
It was my lifestyle, but I changed my lifestyle and I've reversed it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you all for taking the time to speak to us this morning. That's Joe Beaver. He was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. He's reversed it through lifestyle. Alyssa Faulkner, different situation, type 1 diabetes. She's managing that. And also to Arjun Panesar, who's the founding CEO of DDM Health. Thank you all very much for talking to us this morning.
The Six Nations.